So we have to talk Utah Jazz today.
Right. As opposed to, other days.
So Buddy was asking me this morning
Right.
about betting on the Jazz game tonight.
Hey, come on.
He's like, yo, Clippers are in Salt Lake City. The Jazz are a big favorite because tonight the Utah Jazz, if you can believe this, the Utah Jazz right now, as of this morning, when this show was live, this program is live. Are minus 6.5, 225.
Oh, what are you talking about, man?
Minus 6.5, 225.
Yeah.
Over the LA Clippers.
First thing you have to say is boys in Vegas know how to make some money, huh?
Well, and I think that's part of it. That is the money line is the bet here tonight, by the way. Because the Clippers, I think, are plus 222 on the money line, which means
thrown our budget a little out of whack.
You bet $100, you win 225. You cannot, or 222. You cannot bet the Jazz tonight.
No, and the main reason for this is I just don't think the Jazz are playing great basketball right now. They're not.
Yeah.
You're not playing the best basketball of the season. You're in a time during the season where you're just not doing it to the best of your ability, and that's okay. As I've said many times on this show, every team goes through this where you have a stretch of probably 10 or 15 games where you're just not firing on all cylinders. And so to me, I think it's risky business to be betting on the Jazz to win this game. I very much so. I think it's risky business, and I think that they're turning the ball over a lot. I think that Will Hardy is still working on rotations. I think Will Hardy needs to figure out how not to play Lauri Markkanen too much in the first half so he can get an equal minutes distribution in the second half. There are some things they're working on. And I look at this game. You're not going to have Kawhi Leonard in this game again, which is good for the Jazz, obviously. But it is still the Clippers. It is still a really good team. So that's why I struggle to put money on a game like this when the Jazz aren't playing their best basketball.
Yeah, I don't think you can bet the Jazz. I mean, I have no problem betting the Clips. I mean, the question, I guess, of the morning and the title of this show is, why are the Utah Jazz losing?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when we talk about why the Jazz are losing, I think what you get here is that they're just not a team yet. Mm-hmm. That's what I feel like the right answer here is. When people say, what's wrong with the Jazz? What's wrong with the Jazz is they're a bunch of new dudes wearing uniforms you don't recognize, faces you don't necessarily recognize, and we're just through November. We're at the quarter post of the season. They're just now figuring out who they are as a basketball team, which is what made that hot start that the Jazz had so remarkable, because it was improbable at best that they would come out and lead the NBA and be the first team to 10 wins. And it's improbable, right? So now I think you're starting to settle down to the mean. The NBA's adjusted to the Jazz. There's tape on these guys now as a unit. And now I think we start to figure out how well is Will Hardy doing as an NBA head coach.
Yeah.
I think he's making some mistakes, but you would expect that out of a 35-year-old guy. Getting his first run as the boss. I would expect that. I think you're starting to figure out that chemistry is not just something you can write on a whiteboard and all of a sudden it's a real thing, because it doesn't work that way. You bring in a bunch of new dudes, and I think they have to figure out how to play together. And that free-flowing run up and down the floor, let Colin Sexton attack the rim with his hair on fire, just doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's this thing we talked about the other night against the Bulls, where was Lauri Markkanen? And we've talked about this, I feel like, game after game. Lauri Markkanen will get off to a big start and then just disappear.
Y'all feel me?
And that can't happen. I think this team is still trying to sow its oats and find its way, and I think once they do, again, they're going to wind up a 35-40 win team.
Yeah, and I think they don't have the ability to overcome negative or positive momentum inside of an NBA game right now. I look at the way that Bulls game, specifically the second half of the Bulls game went, specifically, the last 5 minutes of the third and then the first 5 minutes of the fourth, and you were just turning the ball over. You sort of lost your way offensively. I felt like you lost your way just inside of the game, and yeah, some of that's Will Hardy for sure. I think, as we've talked about many times on this show, a lot of that is the lack of leadership on the floor, especially when Mike Conley's not dressing. So, to me, it's you're just kind of going through some struggles right now, and that's why I say, it always brings me back to the expectations conversation that we seemingly have on the show about this team. Like, remember what your expectations were before the season started. Everyone was saying, oh, this is going to be a terrible season, and we're going to tank for VW, and VW this, and VW that. They come out and win some games, and then everyone's like, oh, well, this is a 50-win team now. And it's like, no, dude, they had a nice start to the season, and they've come back to earth now. And you need to understand that, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be a world is ending conversation because they've lost, whatever it is now. I don't even know how many it is in a row now.
5 in a row.
5 in a row now.
Yeah, they've lost 5 in a row.
Like, okay, great. You've lost 5 in a row. Who'd you lose to? I mean, I know you had
Clippers, Pistons, Warriors, Suns, and Bulls.
Got some good teams there. They're not all great teams, but you got some good teams there.
Well, but the problem is you've lost, essentially 8 of 10. You're 12 wins against 11 losses. You lose tonight, you're a 500 basketball team. You're already 2.5 behind Denver in the Northwest. Like, you're out of essentially you're not out of, but if you look at the standings right now, you're struggling to stay in a playoff spot. Now, having said that, you're only 3.5 games off the top spot in the Western Conference. I mean, but that tells you the depth and the quality of the Western Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think, like this morning, everyone's all enraged about this Steph Curry travel call to end that game last night. And I'm just
by the way, that's a travel.
It is a travel. And I think that we don't need to get into the minutia of why that's a travel, but it was a travel very clearly. By the book, it's a travel. And my point, though, is that the Western Conference is always going to shake out with the good teams on top. Like, even if they start slow, they're going to come back through, and they're going to wind up on top. And that's because when you play quality basketball more than not, like, that's where you're going to finish. And that's why I said you just can't overreact one way or the other. Like everyone's saying, oh, the Warriors are done. Like, the Draymond and Poole thing is this huge deal to this team. And it's like, yeah, it's going to take them a few games to get over that. He punched someone in the face.
Yeah.
But now they're fine. So
I'm not buying. Well, okay. I want to kick your ass in an NBA power rankings conversation. I really do. I
will chain you to a pipe.
I will. I mean, oh, Steph Curry, man. Wow. No. My point is, this Jazz team is going to get better. Every game they play, they're going to get better. They have to learn to win games. And I think that's the other thing that, when we're sitting here talking Jazz basketball and what? Their record is 12-11.
Yeah.
Right? They have to win. They have to learn to win games. You're 6-3 at home, 6-8 on the road, right? So you have to learn to win both at home and on the road. And I think that happens because you don't win the quarters. You don't win the end of quarter. You don't win the final 2 minutes of a quarter. You don't win the final 2 minutes of a game. The Bulls and DeMar DeRozan dominated the end of the game. And you've got to figure out how to change that momentum. And I think a lot of that is just playing smarter basketball. Look, I love Kelly Olynyk. He doesn't belong in the game in the final 5 minutes. He's a guy, in my opinion, that is great. You love having him on your team. I'm not telling you that Kelly Olynyk's a bad player. I just think sometimes his judgment is questionable. I look at a guy like Colin Sexton. I can teach and coach up Colin Sexton for end-of-the-game situations. But I look at Jordan Clarkson. There was a reason last year, and we're starting to see this again. There's a reason last year that Quinn Snyder doesn't have Jordan Clarkson on the floor at the end of the game because you can't trust him with the game on the line. Because is he going to make the right basketball play, or is he going to take a terrible shot, or is he going to turn it over? Right? Like, seriously, that's what this team has to do. This team has to learn to win games, and that a lot of times is easier said than done. It's not the easiest thing in the world. Good morning, Kenai Johnson. First one in. KJ, good to see you. He says, top of the morning, fellas. The Jazz haven't been playing good since Conley got injured. Is Conley the engine that runs the team? I mean, there's a conversation to be had around that, and it looks like he is nearing a return.
I don't know that I'd say he's the engine that runs the team. What I would say is that he's the guy that calms the ship when things tend to go awry. And I think that Mike Conley is just brings that presence on the floor where when the Jazz need to look to someone to get them into a set, or like just kind of he just gives them some direction. It's not like he's the guy that comes out and saves them the way Kevin Durant saves the Nets. Like, that's a different thing. Like, Mike Conley just simply is going to bring leadership on the floor. And I think this team sorely misses that leadership when he's not playing.
Well, I also think you have to understand he's not going to play. I mean, he's a guy that's injured. Water's wet and Mike Conley's hurt.
Yeah.
That's just the story of the guy's career. So this is where you need development. And again, I think it brings up this question of guard rotation on this team. I mean, like, what guard rotation works? What combinations work? Can you play Sexton and Clarkson together? I don't know if I want to do that. I don't know if I want to do that. You know, like, can you play Sexton, THT, and Conley together? Yeah, you can.
I think you could, yeah.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Can you play Sexton, THT, and Clarkson together? I don't know if you can do that, because who can you count on there to score the bucket? Right? Like, that's does the ball move enough? Like, you get into these situations with THT where if he's not shooting the three well, if it's not going in, all of a sudden he's a very limited player. So he becomes a distributor. Well, I don't need THT to be a distributor. I need him to run. I need him to use his physicality against other guards.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so the question is then, well, when Mike Conley's in the lineup, you're deeper, because Mike can do a lot of different things and he can be a lot of different things, right? But again, I just ask, if Mike Conley's healthy, is Lauri Markkanen a zero against the Bulls in the second half?
No.
I don't know. I honestly, I don't know. Probably not. I mean, is Will Hardy not calling plays for Lauri Markkanen? Do they not have offensive sets? I find that hard to believe. I find it hard to believe. But when you score 24 points in the first half and then you score 8 in the second half, I mean, you two things are very apparent. I watched the entire Mavs-Warriors game last night. Luka Doncic had 40 points again, and a lot of them were in the second half. I was at the Bulls-Jazz game. DeMar DeRozan was pitiful for 2.5 quarters. But what happened? When it was winning time, DeMar DeRozan found a way to get the ball in the hoop.
Yeah.
That's what Lauri Markkanen hasn't been doing for this team. And as a Bulls fan, trust me when I tell you, he ain't that guy, pal. I don't know that. I do know.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
He's not a number one. That's the bottom line. He's not a number one. But what he is a really good number two.
Yeah.
But again, and I don't mean to be redundant. I know we've had this conversation about the Jazz a million times. They just don't have an alpha male. When they're 100% healthy, they don't have an alpha male.
Yeah, and I wonder how they go and get that guy. I mean, obviously trading for him is a possibility, but I just wonder how that works out, because, you know, getting that dynamic wing alpha male guy, like, that's going to take a lot of – you're going to have to give up quite a bit to get a player of that caliber. So to me, it's interesting. Like, in those kind of conversations, does Lauri Markkanen not come up? Like, if you're calling the Jazz and you have – you know, a Jaylen Brown offer, let's say, just as an example. Like, aren't you asking for Lauri Markkanen? That's the problem. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what guy that is that they try to go and get, but they definitely need one. They got to go and find somebody.
Yep, I agree. Good morning, Riley O'Brien. Good to see you. Salty Drunk, what's up? Hope you got some more 4X gold. Sam Locke, good to see you. He says, Kelly Olynyk's basketball IQ is bad at times. He doesn't play good defense at all, and his rebounding is awful. Okay, well, I think that's probably over the top. I think Kelly O is a decent rebounder, but he's not the athlete that a lot of the 4s and 5s he goes up against are. But that's why, as a team, you have to rebound. Now, I think another lesson that we're learning is that the Jazz lack a big man, and I know you said that yesterday.
Yeah.
But we saw it plain and simply. Like, you know, you look at what the Bulls bring to the party in the middle. I mean, it's a guy like Nikola Vucevic, who is trash. Trust me when I tell you that. He's not a guy that rebounds well. But you look at Javonte Green, you look at Andre Drummond dominating the other night.
What do you
look at the guards, you look at Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso. Like, those guys really rebound as a way of life. The Jazz don't do that, right? So they have to, as a team, they have to rebound. I absolutely think that, you know, when we talk about development, and again, I'll just say what I've always been saying, you've got to find out how close to the top end is Walker Kessler.
Yeah.
I don't think he's close, but now you got to push him to be closer to his top end. I think he's a really important guy. I do. But let's not get over the top on Kelly Olynyk. You know what that guy is.
Yeah.
He is a role player. He is a guy that's going to fight hard. He's going to shoot corner threes for you. He is going to make little plays. He's going to get fouled. Like, that's what he is. He's not a number 3 on a team.
Yeah, you didn't sign him expecting him to be some great player for you.
No.
You signed him just to contribute a little bit.
Steve Hambone, what's up? He says, I think part of the reason why the Jazz are in a slump is because the team are figuring out the Jazz. I'm not too worried about it. We'll figure something out. Well, you're going to figure out different players. I think Kurt Myers, what's up? Good to see you, bud. Edgar Garcia, good morning. Players. I love that he said Playas. Players.
Players.
The Jazz were always supposed to be like this. That's very true. Very true. We forgot it because they started out on fire. That's very true.
Yep.
That is very true. Well, and I think Mike Maples makes a really good point. Not surprisingly. Good morning, friends. We said it for 3 months now. This year is about development, not wins and losses. Develop Vando, Laurie, Sexton, Kessler. I know what the rest of the team is. Let's talk about Jared Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Because I think Maples brings up a really good point about development. What is his ceiling? If I said project forward 2 years, what is Jared Vanderbilt's ceiling? Like, what kind of player is he?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jared Vanderbilt can be, he can be a better version of a PJ Tucker. He can be a better version of Draymond, offensively speaking. But defensively, there's this balance he's going to have to find. So, if he doesn't develop as an offensive player, defensively he's going to have to be elite. He's going to have to be one of the best defenders in the NBA if he wants to be on championship caliber teams. If he wants to be a guy who makes a ton of money in his career and blossoms, you can't have it both ways, right? You either have to be this dynamic defensive guy who can guard 4 positions and use his body properly depending on who he's guarding, or you come back to the middle a little bit defensively and you got to be much better offensively, which to me, that's the route I think he's going to take because, being at the Bulls game, you can clearly see he instinctually, he knows when to shoot and when not to shoot. The problem is his mechanics aren't great. So the spin he gets on the ball, the arc of the ball, the trajectory of the ball doesn't really help more shots go in. Well, that's the problem.
I also think that the other issue is that Jared Vanderbilt's not big enough to be a 5 on most nights. He's a power forward, right? So I think his biggest, highest, best use, his biggest jump is going to be defensively. And I think for a second-round pick, I think 41st overall, he's 23 years old. It's not like we know who he is at the top of his game. He's got to become a better shooter, but he's also got to become a better all-around offensive player. I would like to see something other than him running around the top of the key setting picks. I'd like to see the ability to pass more effectively. I'd like to see the ability to have some type of game at the rim. Right now, he's a really good run the floor, take a pass, dunk the ball, run back down, play defense. If that's all he ever is, hey, for the 41st overall pick in the draft, you're probably good. But this guy's a McDonald's All-American. He played at Kentucky. I mean, you would expect there to be a little bit more gas in the tank than just an average guy. And right now, I think he's just an average guy. Mm-hmm. But again, he's 23. Is that young? I mean, it's not old.
Depends who you're trying to be.
Well, but when you're a power forward, and you're cutting your niche in the NBA, it feels like Vando is turning into a 3-and-D guy, and he's not so consistent at the 3-point stripe yet. Mm-hmm. So he's got to do something better the next 5 months than he's doing now.
Yeah, and I think, if that's also the struggle for the Jazz right now. You don't have threats offensively. You don't have enough. You look at the Clippers tonight as an example. They have threats all over the floor. Guys who can shoot it well enough that you have to respect it. Whether you're looking at Reggie or Morris or even Zubats at times can knock down the elbow jumper. They have guys, obviously, Paul George, they have guys that can score individually. And so to me, I look at this Jazz roster and, you look at some of the guys who contribute offensively most nights. Obviously, Laurie can get his own. Colin Sexton, I feel like it's a mindset thing for Colin. Sometimes, in the second quarter, he's a defensive guy in the Bulls game. He's a defensive guy who's not really looking to score the basketball. But then you get him in the second half. Will Hardy's had a conversation. Will Hardy said, hey, you need to get it going. And all of a sudden, Colin Sexton's running around the paint with the basketball and getting high percentage paint looks. So that's what I'm saying. The Jazz don't have enough guys that are looking for the shot on any given possession. That's a big issue for them.
Yep. Salty Drunk says, develop Sexton. The dude is in the 5th year in the league. Yeah, but he's 23 years old. I mean, he's a first-round pick. I mean, this guy that scored 24 points a game before the knee injury.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a lot to give here. There's this notion that, again, take this comment. Well, he's 5th year in the league. What do you mean develop him? Every single game you have to do something better.
Yeah.
You do. And they've had practice time this week. I would expect them to come out and be better tonight because of the loss against the Bulls, time to study the film, have practice, play a game.
Mm-hmm.
I'd expect them to be better. Colin Sexton is a guy. Look, we saw Will Hardy, take a large bite out of his ass.
Yeah.
We saw that. And I think what we saw is a better, more thoughtful Colin Sexton offensively since that argument that night on the bench. We've seen a guy that's making the extra pass. We've seen the guy not getting blocked at the rim with a guy wide open in the corner. We're seeing that. There is absolutely development and growth in Colin Sexton's game. I look at Donnie. Look at Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland. Tell me this year he's not a far better player than he was last year.
Donnie, please.
He is. And my point is, guys get better. It's the system that you play in. It is now for the Jazz, the difference is that you have a guy like David Fizdale in an organization that is committed to growth and development. You have a coach in Will Hardy that is known for teaching, for being a good teacher, for being a developer. So we're starting to see that guys like Colin Sexton are growing because he's getting into it. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, repeatedly in the Bulls game, I can tell you, he said to him, there was a stretch where Nickeil took a terrible three-point shot and then turned it over. Will Hardy called a timeout and said, it's not good enough. It's not effing good enough.
Fucking A.
And was talking directly to Alexander Walker. Walked over, put his arm around him, come back out. NAW hits a 3, gets 2 turnovers, plays a much better game.
Yeah.
This organization is growing and developing talent. If these guys were 25, we'd probably be having a different conversation. But they're 20, 21, 20, 23, THT, guys like Walker Kessler, guys like Colin Sexton, guys like Vando.
Yeah.
You have plenty of development time in these guys, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Yeah. Jaron Patterson, good morning. He says, I'm just happy the Jazz are doing decent. Missing pieces need to make some moves. And they will. Absolutely they will. Make some pieces. Ron Nolan says, Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Okay, yeah, exactly, KJ says, we have to realize that it doesn't matter if we win or lose this year, but if we are winning, I think that brings a star player to help us get over the hill. And again, let's kick Jake's ass in the power ranking game and see how many teams he gets wrong in conferences.
Hey, guys.
Who's the best team in the NBA right now? If I said to you, hey, top 5 teams in the NBA right now. I mean, if you look at the East, I think it's pretty clearly the Celtics and Bucks have separated themselves.
Yeah, as they
and
always
probably
do.
the Celtics are the Boston Celtics are probably the best team in the NBA.
Where are the Cavs at right now as far as games back and record?
They're 4 off the lead in the East.
Yeah, so the problem is that, well, not the problem, but the dynamic in the East is that you have these 2 teams in Boston and Milwaukee who have been chasing chips for the last 3-4 seasons. So they're not going to have chemistry issues or putting new guys together. There's one goal in mind for these 2 teams. I look at Cleveland with Donnie, and my only question about that team is, what does it look like in crunch time in a 7-game series?
But look at Boston though, real quick.
Yeah.
Why is Boston better? Because they developed Jaylen Brown and they went out and got Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
That's why they're right. But and I'm serious.
Yeah, Malcolm Brogdon's been interesting. Yeah.
But look at Jaylen Brown.
Yeah.
Why is Jason Tatum better?
Yeah.
Because Jaylen Brown's better. Because they're growing together, right? So JT's scoring 30 points a game now, right? You're he is very quietly because, and I think I watch probably as much NBA basketball as anybody. He's not having some spectacular season. Very quietly, he's in the MVP conversation. Very quietly, I think the Boston Celtics are the best team in the NBA, and it's because a guy like Jason Tatum, and you want to talk about age, Jason Tatum's 24 years old. But all of a sudden, he's scoring 30 points a game, which is exponentially more than he has ever scored, right? Previously, his career high was 27. He's at 30.8 points a game. He's scoring 4 more points a game.
Yeah, and to average 30, that means you got to be pushing 40 on a lot of nights.
And it's because they are better, they are deeper, their rotations are better.
Yeah.
Like I also look at a guy like Marcus Smart. Somehow, some way, Marcus Smart is playing the best basketball of his career. And I think, and I feel dumb saying it, he's a better defensive player this year than he was last year.
Yeah.
And I thought,
how old is he? What's his deal?
He is 28.
Yeah. So you see so this is a great example. So, you have Jason Tatum who's only 24 years old, man. I mean, that is just not old at all. He's not even in his prime yet. You look at Smart at 28 years old in his prime as a defensive first guy who can knock down a three for you.
Marcus Smart is making 35% of his 3-point shots.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great number for, if Draymond Green made 35%, oh my God, dude.
But this is why
yeah,
Danny Ainge last year was so aggressive trying to get Marcus Smart on this team.
Yeah.
Because if you'd added Marcus Smart to this team, my guess is Donnie's still here today.
Keep it real.
And we're in a different conversation. I don't think there's any doubt Rudy Gobert was gone no matter what they did.
Yeah.
I think Marcus Smart, had he been able to pull off that Boston trade, I think Donnie's still here.
Donnie?
And I think that's how impactful he is. But if we're talking top 5 teams in the NBA,
yeah.
I think the Boston Celtics are number 1.
Yeah.
I think the Phoneix Suns are number 2. I think the Devin Booker, another perfect example right here. Devin Booker's a player that is without Chris Paul, and I think that's important. Devin Booker's a player who right now is averaging 28 points a game without their number 1 facilitator in Chris Paul. And you look at where he is numbers-wise. He's having a career year scoring, right? And he's not having a career year shooting the ball. In fact, I think he's having a terrible year from 3. He's only shooting 35%, but he's getting in the line. He's one of the best. I think Kevin Durant's the best mid-range player in the NBA ever. Mm-hmm. But I think Devin Booker is top 2 or 3 mid-range players.
Well, Devin Booker is, and this is, what's happening with Tatum as well. That kind of guy in the league is starting to understand what they need to do to get their looks. And it's like DeMar the other night, pitiful in the first half. Absolutely embarrassing, not what you would expect, right? But then they get going in the second half by getting fouled, by playing a little more physical,
yes.
just seeing the ball go in a little bit. So these guys are getting better at understanding, hey, I've got 5 points at the half. Yeah, I got to have a big second half. How does that start? Well, that starts by getting in the paint and seeing the ball go in the hole. And what do you know? Devin Booker, Jason Tatum, DeMar DeRozan, all these guys wind up scoring 30, 35 a night, even with a bad first half. So that's how you know they're developing. And when I look at the Jazz, I want to see Lauri turn into that guy a little bit. But Lauri's never going to be that guy if Will Hardy cannot get a handle on rotating him properly.
Lauri Markkanen just needs to be Aaron Gordon.
That's it.
Lauri Markkanen just needs to be that really good number 2. That's all he needs to be.
Yeah.
And I think when you talk, and bigs are different, by the way. We're not talking about guards and wing players. Lauri Markkanen is a hybrid big.
Yeah.
He is a 3, 4, sometimes 5, sometimes 2. Like he can play different matchups. But I'm telling you now that Phoenix is, in my opinion, I think Phoenix is 2, Milwaukee's 3. Now here's where it gets interesting, 4 or 5, because I actually think Denver is 4th. I think Denver's better than Cleveland. When you're getting the contribution that you're getting out of 4 guys. And then the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope trade, I still think
excellent trade.
And I know that everybody laughs at me when I talk about KCP. Again, I will just say he shot the LA Lakers to the bubble championship.
Yeah.
And you can talk about AD and LeBron. Absolutely, you should. Alex Caruso and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope are the reason they won that championship. Mm-hmm. And Denver is realizing just how important Kentavious Caldwell-Pope can be. And if you look at Denver, again, just like JT and the Celtics, the Denver Nuggets are very quietly pretty dang good.
Well, Michael Porter Jr. is the guy you got to watch for there, right? Like, I think Jamal Murray coming off the injury has been as advertised. Like, obviously,
he's about ready. By the way, I don't know how many people look at I'm an idiot and a nerd, and I get it.
Hey guys.
Has anybody looked at Jamal Murray's minutes distribution? Yeah, he's just about now pushing 30 minutes a game. Mm-hmm. And you're just at the quarter pole.
Yeah. That's
and
what
he's
saying.
giving you 15 to 17 points a night.
Yeah.
They're going to be very difficult in the playoffs. I think that team is back.
Well, and it's a tough place to play as well because of the altitude and everything, much like here, obviously. It's a tough place to go and win a game.
Yeah. Riley says, agree with you, Monty. Sexton averaging his career low in points thus far, but that doesn't feel or seem disappointing. It doesn't. That's exactly right, Riley O. It doesn't feel disappointing. Colin Sexton, I feel like Colin Sexton is it too much to say learning to play NBA basketball again? Because he's playing in a completely different role and system than he came up in. Mm-hmm. So you feel like he's just starting over almost. And I think he's been really bad and really good. And now we need to find that center where he can live, for the rest of the season.
Well, I think he's just got to raise his baseline. That to me, like, you got to raise your floor. Like, you have to be able to say, okay, much like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum and these elites in the league, like, that's all they've done, right? Like, Book and Jason Tatum have gone from 24 to 26 a night to 28 and 30 a night. Like, they've just slowly but surely raised their floor. And I think that we can't forget that Colin Sexton's coming off of a knee, man. Like, you have to remember that he's going through that process still, and he looks great. Yes. Explosion is there. Like, looks 100% healthy to me, to my eye. Maybe mentally is there hesitation still? I don't know, but watching him the other night, like, he looked very aggressive and ready to go. Like, no problem jumping with guys. So to me, I just think these guys on the roster just have to continue and slowly but surely get better. Whether it's Vando, Sexton, Walker Kessler, certainly. You just got to keep getting better.
Yep. Utah Jazz Talk in the NBA presented by TryDayTrading.com. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Now, we talk about this every single day. They're one of our best partners on the show. If you haven't watched the free webinar at TryDayTrading.com/Monty, I don't know what you're waiting for, because it is absolutely a game changer. And one of the things we talk about as a year comes to an end, and anybody who's ever been in sales or in a sales position, or when you have goals and you have, projections that you're working on, and if you're that guy that's like, okay, man, January 1st, my ass is in the gym. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, 2023 is the year I'm getting a new job. I'm changing my life. Why are you waiting for 2023? We've got 31 days left in the year. Let's go do it right now. Let's end 2022 with a bang by getting to TryDayTrading.com/Monty and watching a free webinar. That's it. Not spending money, not spending a ton of time, spending nothing, investing in your future. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Let's not set goals where, again, every year you tell yourself, man, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to make more money. I'm going to change my career. I'm going to take my family on that trip to Disneyland. I'm going to budget. The bottom line is this. Are you making $1,000 a day? Right now, today, in the job that you're doing, are you making $1,000 today? If the answer is no, or if you wonder, well, let me think about that. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. If you're wondering, hey, let me ask you this. Are you making $300, $400, $500, $600 a day? Well, let me think about that. Well, if I work overtime, TryDayTrading.com/Monty. No overtime. No Christmases, no holidays. You being you, working for you, making the money that you've always dreamed of. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. That's the way you go here. And the best part about TryDay Trading is they're going to teach you their system that has worked for so many people. There are people who have gone through the TryDay Trading program who are making $1,000 a day. And I ask you every day, if I could promise you that you're going to make, $3,000, $5,000, $1,000 every day for the rest of the week, would you do it? Would you be like, oh yeah, I'm all in on that? Yeah, you would. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Just go watch the free webinar. That's all you have to do. Utah Jazz Talk and the NBA presented by TryDayTrading.com/Monty. And remember as well, When you start trading, you trade with their money, not your money. And when you make money with their money, they're going to give you 50% of the profit. It's that simple. Go watch the free webinar. TryDayTrading.com/Monty. Let's run through some of your comments on the NBA and the Jazz. Salty says, watch OKC. That's development.
It's true. I mean, you look at Josh Giddey, you look at SGA, like you look at several of their guys, like you have good development happening there.
Yeah, Chet's amazing.
Yeah, except he's hurt and not playing.
Gonzaga. Let's see. Salty Drunk says Draymond hits his teammates better than the three. You see, like he punches him in the face better.
Man, that was wow. That was incredible.
By the way, is anybody noticing that Kuminga's getting meaningful minutes?
Yep.
They're playing Kuminga.
He is the next Draymond. That's what they want him to be. They want him to be a defensive force that gives you more offensively.
And he hit a critical three last night. Like if you didn't see the Warrior Mavs game last night, I don't know how Klay Thompson missed that three. And guess who made the perfect pass? Draymond Green. On an inbound play. And this is why Draymond's so lethal. He throws a cross-court lob to the opposite elbow.
Whoa.
Perfect pass. Wide open Klay Thompson missed the three.
Yeah.
I mean, it was I thought it was going in.
Well, everybody thought it was going in.
And
Klay Thompson.
It didn't go in. It didn't go in.
And
that's
I think,
all I'm saying.
if you're the Warriors, you're going to live with that. I don't know. That's great offense. He just missed it.
Yep. Mesh says, I'll take the Nuggets, Clippers, and Bucks fully healthy over the Suns any day in a 7-game series. I'm not taking the Clippers over the Suns. The Suns are too good defensively right now, but the problem is the Clippers aren't going to be fully healthy at any time this year.
And I don't think the Nuggets are proven. I agree. They're a damn good team, but they're not proven.
At the quarter pole, they're a damn good team.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can sit here and say you believe in MPJ. I just think that back.
Dude, I know the Suns can get to the NBA Finals. I know that. That's a fact. Like, we've seen that. I don't know that the Nuggets can do that. I don't know that, the Clippers can do that.
Yeah, I don't know. What's the right way to say this? I think the Suns are well aware that this is it. For this group of guys, this is it. With the Cam Johnson knee injury, he's out till probably late January. Chris Paul's hurt again. Water's wet. CP3's hurt.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to go in a different direction. I think, and there's some thought around the NBA that Monty Williams could be coming to the end of his time in Phoenix. There's the DeAndre Ayton situation is unresolved. And you may say, well, he's got this max extension. He does. They don't like each other.
I think that they're doing a good job, though, keeping it under the radar.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Like, when you have...
I would agree with that.
Because they were at a point where Ayton and Monty Williams hadn't talked heading into the season, according to DeAndre Ayton. Now, maybe DeAndre Ayton was lying. I don't know, right? Who the hell knows? But what I do know is that's what was in the media, and it's a bad look. And now you have DeAndre Ayton in press conferences on Monday, I think that was. Maybe that was Sunday, earlier in the week, coming out and saying, like, hey, I need to lead the line on physicality. I need to lead the line on energy, because when I do that, my teammates follow and match that energy, and that's really good for our basketball team. That puts us in a much better position, and that's what I can control. And so if DeAndre Ayton's going to be locked in like this and playing better defense, not great defense, he's never going to be some ridiculous defender, but better defense, and he can be locked in offensively, especially with CP3 being out, especially with Cam Johnson being out, you're going to be in a much better spot. And that's why I say, like, I don't disagree that this is probably their last run together. And when you start to hear rumblings of Monty Williams' time coming to an end, I think the Phoenix Suns very well could be in that position where this is the last year together, and as an organization, big picture, not just players, in the big picture, this organization rolls over and is a bad team again, but has new leadership, new culture, has to kind of go through that rebirth process with the Sarver stuff and everything happening. And that's why I think you will see, if Monty Williams is going to be done, if Book is going to be done, if Ayton's going to move on, that is why they would do that.
I don't know that I'm convinced that Book's going to move on. I think it depends on the Robert Sarver sale thing, because, by the way, that's been very quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And usually when an NBA franchise goes up, it goes fast. There's some interesting things there. I think that's a huge thing that people have kind of forgotten about, but if Robert Sarver doesn't sell the team lock, stock, and barrel, Devin Booker's going to leave. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I think when you look at that group of guys, you have guys that are good, not great. And I think Devin Booker's one of the best scorers in the NBA.
100%.
But he needs help, right? As all guys do.
But hold on. I really hate that saying now, because I feel like it used to be 10 years ago when LeBron was in Miami, it was like, oh, LeBron doesn't need help, right? Like LeBron can win a ring on his own.
Sure.
Dude, LeBron had loads of help, right? Like, let's not forget that. So I don't like nowadays where the league is at. Not that you were doing this, but I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, Book needs help. JT needs help. Like, this guy needs help. And it's like, yeah, dude, they do need help. Kevin Durant needs help, right? Like, the best players in the league needs help.
Nobody's winning championships on their own anymore.
Yeah.
This league is about duos and trios now.
Yeah.
And really what you need is it's Boston. It's the Celtics. It's why I think they're going to win the East this year. You've got to stay healthy, and you've got to have a dynamic duo with a great supporting cast.
Yeah.
That's what makes you a great team. And I think it's how Boston is going to win. I think it's how Golden State did win. I think it's one of the biggest problems with Phoenix right now is they don't have a dynamic duo because you can't count on Chris Paul. And it's very interesting to see what are they going to do at the trade deadline. Is Phoenix too loyal to their role players? I think they are. I think they absolutely are. I would trade Cam Johnson. I just think he's been so injured. You got to trade that guy. I look at Golden State. Golden State doesn't have a dynamic duo anymore. Their dynamic duo is Steph and Wiggs. That's who their dynamic duo is. And Klay Thompson, I don't know if he ever recaptures his shooting form. I don't know that he ever becomes that guy again. But you look at Golden State, this is the last ride for Draymond Green in Golden State.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at the end for Klay Thompson in Golden State. I think that they are going to be married to Wiggs, Kuminga, and Curry. Those three guys, they're going to carry the ball forward. I don't know what to make of Jordan Poole, and I know we've disagreed on this.
Yeah.
I don't believe that Jordan Poole is a superstar. I think he has superstar ability, but I think he's that guy that's got $100 bills worth of talent, but he's got a 10-cent head. And I think that he is arrogant. I think he likes himself too much. And I just don't know that you can give him the ball in a championship situation because that's the bar now in Golden State.
Right.
That's the bar.
Right.
Championship situation. Is he ever Steph Curry? Is he ever Klay Thompson in his prime? And I don't think he is.
Right now, you're not saying. I mean, I have to agree. You can't say that he is. But I also, just a caveat there, right? Because we've been doing the age thing all morning. He's only 23, right? And he's got a ton of experience already in big game playoff situations. So does he turn into a more humble guy? Does he turn into the guy that you can count on? Maybe. I don't know. I think that's definitely a wild card question mark.
But wouldn't he have done that already? And that's the thing.
Maybe. Yeah.
Like, I look at Andrew Wiggins as a really good example of Jordan Poole.
Yeah.
Because Wiggs hasn't been a foundational player until he got into a championship culture.
Wow.
The problem is Jordan Poole's in a championship culture, and he's always been in a championship culture. And some guys just, this is James Wiseman. Why is James Wiseman in the D-League, right? Or in the G-League, excuse me, because he's not that guy.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Poole is really good. He's just not great. And if I put Jordan Poole on any of the B teams in this league, the Bulls, the Sixers, the Nets, frankly, if you put him on any of those B teams, does he carry them to being an A team? No, he does not. Because he's not a team guy. He's not a share the ball guy.
I think he's capable of putting up 40 on any given night, though. And I think that has a lot of value in the league. And I think that, you know, the Warriors, the Warriors are really playing the which questionable route do we want to go game. Meaning, hey, do we want to, you know, try to rely on Klay to get the three ball back to the level it was? Do we want to rely on Jordan Poole? Do we want to put our hopes in the future in Kuminga? Like, what route do you want to go? I think the only route that really is determined is Draymond, as you said. I really think that this is Draymond's last run. And Golden State, the reason you're seeing so much more Kuminga right now is because they know that. They know that they got to reset that position, and Kuminga has to be given the opportunity to develop and be put in a position to be successful.
I also, I think the Bulls are a fascinating example of this, and I think most of you know I'm a huge Bulls fan.
Right.
They opened a championship window, and they're just watching it like, You know that window in your house that's stuck like right here, and you got to fight it to. That's the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Because they didn't make the Rudy trade. They are stuck with a guy like a Pat Williams and a Nikola Vucevic. What are they willing to give up to get to the next level? Because DeMar and Zach are not getting younger.
Zayo Dosunmu, you have to be willing to give him up. You have to.
Yeah,
You're not gonna have a choice.
I don't know that you can give up young 1-2 combo guards because he can really shoot.
Hey, listen to me. I get it. He can play. The fact is, you've done a poor job with your roster, so you're being pigeonholed into a position where Dosunmu is your best option as far as trades. Like, yeah, you could move Vucevic, you could move, Pat Williams, but those guys now are not going to have the same value they did before the summer was here.
Well, and I think that's one of the more interesting parts about building a championship team, and I think that's why. And I think somebody was saying it. Skinny Dick Nick said Danny's going to form a big three like he did with the Celtics.
Yeah, I sure hope so.
But it's got to be through trades, which, by the way, if you go and look at the Kevin Garnett deal or whatever, I think I think that's the only way you can do it here in Utah. Jeff Johnson, what's up? How the heck are you? Ron Nolan says, I don't know nothing. Nutten.
Right.
This is a family show.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You guys are learning me lots. Okay. Salty Drunk says you guys have a tragic bromance with Draymond. The guy's a hack.
Dude, what are you talking about?
The thing that I don't understand is why is it so hard for you to show respect to good players? You don't have to like the guy personally. I don't love the fact that he committed workplace violence. We've talked about that.
I'll drop that motherfucker.
But I'm not going to rip the guy's game because I don't like him as a dude. He's a really important player. He is arguably one of the most impactful power forwards that's ever played in the NBA.
Yeah.
Draymond Green, without doubt, is one of the most successful power forwards to ever play in the NBA. He is on one of the most dominant teams that without him would not be the dominant, iconic franchise that they've become.
What would I do without you?
You don't have to like him, but you have to respect him.
Yeah.
And if you don't respect Draymond Green's game, you don't know anything about the NBA.
Yeah.
Those are just the facts. I don't like Draymond Green as a guy. I don't like that he uses violence to get what he wants because he's done it not only in a bar, but now in the workplace. No, I don't like that. I have a lot of respect for his game. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to speak poorly of the guy's game because I don't like him as a person. That's just not what you do. San Diego State Aztec, what's up? Good to see you. Skeet says, so you're endorsing toxic masculinity now.
The hell does that even mean, dude?
Come on.
What are you doing?
Come on. Tanner, good morning to you. They don't have a bromance with Draymond Salty Drunk. They just respect his game. Exactly right.
And I just don't think it's that complicated. With all due respect to Salty Drunk or toxic masculinity buddy over here, why does it have to be so complex? Why does it have to be so difficult? There's Draymond the basketball player and there's Draymond the dude. Dude is a douche, but also contributes at a really high level. So it's kind of that conundrum that we find ourselves in.
If you can't respect the pass he made last night to Klay Thompson, there's no conversation for us to have.